Re'ei anochi noisem lefnechem es habrocha ves haklola comes to mind these days. It's coming Parsha that the Sforno says that Jews will either be on prime level of ascendancy in a state of bracha, or they'll be downtrodden when they don't fulfill the Torah. Bracha klola. Rarely, if ever, do we find Jews in a interim status. It's either or, either bracha or klola. Hard not to think of that today when the COVID situation initially seemed to be so under control here in Eretz Yisrael more than anywhere else. And today, the statistics, lo aleinu, seem to be pretty grim, worse than most other places. Bracha or klola. Simultaneously, as this is going on, there seems to be a chance that over here they may find the vaccine that everybody is looking for. They claim they have something here. Bracha or klola. Klal Yisrael is a pendulum that swings this way or that way, because the hashgocha on Klal Yisrael and in Eretz Yisrael, as we read last week, is different in kind. It's not a quantitative difference, it's a qualitative difference. The hashgocha for Klal Yisrael, on Klal Yisrael, the Ribbon Shalom has another level of revelation that allows for seeing providential guidance here in Eretz Yisrael. Medrash, the Medrash Pliya, Medrash asks, Mahu le'odom sheba Yisrael? What if for a Jew to make hafsakot, intermissions, in the reading of the Tochecha? We don't make hafsakas in the reading of that. That's the halacha. That's the way the Medrash brings it, la halacha. That's question is, why is that Medrash attached to this week's Parsha? It should be relevant to the Tochecha, to the Tochecha. Riyah and Shmiya, a lot of differences, some of which some of us have touched on in the past. Amongst the differences between Riyah and Shmiya is that Shmiya, shtei kolos v'bas achas eno nishmoyim. You don't hear two sounds simultaneously. If you hear sound A and sound B together, simultaneously, then what you're hearing is a new sound, a third sound. It sounds C now, because it's a fusion of the earlier two sounds. So seeing, one has to yet see panoramically. One does see panoramically. One sees simultaneously many things. Hearing sequentially, one after another. Seeing, you see panoramically. Balaturim gives us a clue. He says, Rei Anochi, look at the Anochi. Which Anochi? The Anochi of Anochi Hashem Elokecha. The Anochi of Hashem Elokecha. What was the state of affairs then? There was an S. That they were Royim es HaKolos. Rashi explains, that which is normally only heard was seen. They saw the sounds. I would understand that to mean more than just waves on a screen. They somehow saw something which is not normally seen in sound. There was a merging, a coming together of Riyah and Shmiya. Those two chushim, senses, that are normally separated, discrete, came together. Possibly, we could look at it and understand it this way. There are two ways to relate to the solace, the pain, the retribution, which is cleansing and therapeutic. Like we read in the Parshas last week, as the Rebbeinu Shalom is not punishing for retribution per se for nekama chas v'shalom lo aleinu. It's therapeutic. It's as a father disciplines his son. The pasuk is made. But nevertheless, from our human perception, when we experience lo aleinu, the moments of retribution, of anguish, it's challenging, at the least overwhelming, frequently at points in history. The Piasetzner says it in the ghetto, found it afterwards, that his ksovim, that he said that Klal Yisrael was tzeik to the Rebbeinu Shalom. We know that the surgery that's being performed is in order to save the goof. We know it. But we're asking you, Rebbeinu Shalom, to relate as a father relates, not as a surgeon. The father can't stand by to witness the surgery, though intellectually he knows that it's for the good of the patient, for his son's good. The surgeon is a bit removed. Surgeons don't operate on their own sons. That's the rule. And so, there are moments in history, so there are two ways that Klal Yisrael might respond and relate to the poronius, the visiting of these experiences of therapy, of surgery, of pain in history. Riyadik or Shmiyadik? Shmiyadik means sequentially. Take each event as a standalone. Take each event, Churban Bayis Rishon, Churban Bayis Sheni, Girush Sfard, Chunyeki, all the pogroms in history, the Shoah, Lo Aleinu, one after another. Take them standalone, shmiyadik, as separate, discrete experiences, built-in as well. Can't handle it. Should we intellectually be able to handle it, knowing that it's for our good? Of course. But it's built into the nature of things that if we take it separately, that is to make hafsakot in the reading of the Tochecha, to interrupt it, not to see it in one fell swoop. Masha Enkein. Riyadik, Re'ei Anochi. See the sounds. See those cries of pain. But see it, the sounds of those pain, in one sweep, one fell swoop. It begins with a bris ben Absalom. Avraham Avinu is given the option, which is the lesser of the evils when Klal Yisrael will fail. Gehenim or Golus. And Golus means Churban Bayis Rishon, Churban Bayis Sheni. That's opting for the lesser of the evils. But if one sees it in a sweep, that it begins with Bris Ben Absalom, that covenantal pact with Avram, reconfirmed with Yitzchak, with Yaakov, with the Avos, Maimed Har Sinai, the Moshe Rabbeinu seeing all of what Klal Yisrael would experience up till the climax of history. And it is going to climax with what? With Bias HaGoel, B'mheira B'yameinu. The Or HaChaim HaKodesh says in last week's Parsha, V'hoya Ekev. You're going to Tishmun, it's a mashpot, Ekev, in the Ikvus de Mashiach. You're going to experience a bunching together of Poronius, Yisurim, national challenges, individual challenges, lo aleinu. But what's the lotion? How does that work? Is that Vayehi and Vahoya are Lashonos, says the Medrash. Vahoya is Simcha, Vayehi is problematic. Vahoya, what's the Simcha? When you see that they're bunching together, and in retrospect, in Exodus the Mashiach, you're going to be able to follow through with Re'ei Anochi. You'll be able to see it as a mashma'ut that clues sprinkled through history. And as they bunch together closer in Ikvus de Mashiach, we're getting closer to a moment of simcha. We're anticipating this. The anticipation of the simcha has an element of simcha, v'hoya. Similar to the idea, perhaps, of Tisha B'Av as Korelai Moyed, that if we could be reaching such intensity of disillusionment, disappointment, frustration, the verge of these issues, disillusionment, disappointment, and all the pain that in fact is being felt, then yet the Rebbeinu Shalom sends a certain kind of a message through. Don't see it only shmiyadik, meaning not seeing it, only hearing it. It has to be panoramically. Bris Ben Absalom, Ikvus de Mashiach, the intensifying of the frustration and the pain, the Shoah that would live through in our times. Today the COVID, different in kind than the Shoah. There's too much to talk about that now, but it's a painful, world-shattering upheaval, creating new world order, much of what we're not exactly sure, even approximately sure, how and where it's going to land and end. But one thing we know is that Klal Yisrael has been marching through history, defying all the norms, all the improbabilities, transcending all of those regulations, rules that govern the history of other nations. And we come down closer and closer to Re'ei Anochi. See the big picture. Don't make hafsakot in the reading of the Tochecha. Riyadik. But it says Asher Tishmu. V'vos steht Asher Tishmu? Because you have to empathize, feel the pain of every Jew. Not just take it as a piece of data, but empathize with it. Tishmu. You have to feel it. But don't succumb to it to lose your sense of the greater picture in history. Parsha also gives a listing of the animals that we can eat, what we can eat, what we can't eat, kashrus. Historically, there were those who had pointed, the apologists had pointed to kashrus as being for health reasons. Could likely have served that purpose at different times in history, but that's not exhausting the reason. I remember once in a college classroom hearing a university professor say that she had been a student at the University of Heidelberg, and she had Jewish classmates that they were reasonably friendly, but they wouldn't eat in her home, so she wouldn't go to eat in their home because she couldn't reciprocate. So there was always a barrier. And I thought, what a fascinating sociological technique. If you want to keep a people identifying as an extended family, as a people, though dispersed all around the world, they can only eat with each other. What a fascinating regulation and idea when maintained. What it can accomplish. But no pretension that we've exhausted the mitzvah. There's another dimension always. Like the Chassam Sofer says in the famous Tshuva, there was a child that Lo Aleinu had special child, retarded child that could be developed a bit more in a facility, a non-Jewish facility that would serve non-kosher food, but he's shaita, he's potem in a mitzvah. Said the Chassam Sofer, but you can't not send him there because it's metamtem es halev. Timtum halev is injuring the neshama. There's something in mitzvahs that transcends taimei mitzvahs. Taimei mitzvahs, yeah, we can give a rationale to add another level, a dimension that gives us an achiza and a kinship, but ultimately that we're fulfilling the mitzvah as a gzeira min hamalchus. Even the taimei mitzvahs is just the taste of the mitzvahs, but it says tamuru ki tov Hashem. Yeah, it has a dimension where we can find, but we don't prevent our performance, delay performance, because we haven't yet put into place the taimei mitzvahs. And that will always keep Am Yisrael unique, different, and where we have kept mitzvahs, understanding that all mitzvahs partake of chuk chukim, chok, that yes, I have rationale, but it's rationale that has limitations and that there'll always be dimensions beyond. And that is what has made the difference where Klal Yisrael do continue to postpone judgment. Riyadik, that's postponing judgment. I don't yet have all of the criteria at my disposal in order to make my determinations. But I'm connecting to the sweep of Jewish history and Maimer HaSinai, the Eidos, the Messiahs. Will I fulfill the mandate of trying to add dimensions, of adding Taimei mitzvahs? Of course, the Rambam says it, the Chovos HaLevavos says it, but ultimately that is adding dimensions to a Messiahs of uniqueness that is so idiosyncratic in history that there's nothing to compare to it. We're here today. We're here in Eretz Yisrael today. So improbable, so indigestible for the nations of the world. Hashem Yitein, that we should be able to fulfill our mandate of Kvod Shemayim and Kiddush Hashem mitoch simcha and Brius HaNefesh and Brius HaGuf for all of Klal Yisrael, and bring our shlichus to mankind from Eretz Yisrael, within Eretz Yisrael, for Kvod Shemayim.